This is Lance Wallnau reminding you that God is on the throne and in charge of the details. You're praying for Donald Trump. Well, there were two specific acts of God that intervened to save him. And you need to know when you pray, when God answers those prayers, it's so important to see exactly what happens. So I'm excited to do this broadcast with you. And you know, we see the future. God sees the future. That's why we kind of like pray with the knowledge that the Lord has already been into tomorrow, so he knows what's coming. And in that way, we find the Bible also warns us of shakings globally that are coming in nations and economies and systems. And I am always going back to the book of Haggai, which says that the silver is mine, the gold is mine, and I will build this house. God has something supernatural. He's building in the earth a people. He's building. But the silver is mine and the gold is mine. I'll never forget when it kicked me in the butt one day and I realized, you know, God's talking practically too. He's talking about shaking of systems and economies. I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/gold because I don't know. I'm coming to a place where I don't know how much longer I'm going to be offering this, but right now I'm doing it. I'm going to continue giving this offer. I got a 21-page special report on silver and gold and why it's such a fascinating store of value for thousands of years in all these different civilizations. But go to lancewallnau.com/gold, get the free report, and look at how you could take possibly your 401k or your an IRA or something that you've got that might be in paper assets right now. You want to move it into something which is going to move with greater stability and greater value. That's the opinion of many people that are experts in the field of financial advice. I don't consider myself to be the expert. I consider myself to be the expert student. That's why I bring you the best resources. lancewallnau.com/gold. Take action now. You'll be glad you did. And let's get into how God saved Trump's life a second time on this broadcast. Welcome to the Lance Wallnau Show, a rapid fire look at today's news from a conservative viewpoint and a prophetic perspective. I have Mercedes Sparks with me.
Hello, Lance.
Over here in the studio. Mercedes, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great today, Lance.
Well, one of the things that is on the top of my agenda is this. For those of you that don't follow me, you ought to go to Twitter. I want you to start going to X, and you can follow me on X. I'm going to X myself right now. And here's on the top of my feed, I copied this article. I want you all to go there to Lance Wallnau, Wallnau. And I wrote, none of the networks cut away from the action for news coverage. My phone wasn't blowing up with notifications. Had this been a Harris shooting event, the world would have stopped in breathless suspense. All networks would have been interrupted. Has violence against Trump and by extension, the right become normalized? An article by David Marcus is what I'm going to be quoting here. And it looks as though the left has normalized assassination attempts. And I'm serious about this. When it's as though you're not going to be seeing the coverage of the second attempt at Donald Trump's life treated as though it's the story that should be highlighted. It's going to be like, oh, in some other news, a man was arrested who had a rifle near the golf course in Palm Beach in Florida, and Governor DeSantis is taking over the investigation. Look, man, this is the second time a demon-possessed Democrat has decided they're going to, not that there aren't crazies on the right. I'm not saying that the crazy people don't exist all over. I'm saying it's the second time that the fruit of constantly calling other Americans Hitlers and dangers to democracy, et cetera. We're a nation that lives, you know what cosplay is? Mercedes, you're a millennial. Explain to the audience what cosplay is.
What cosplay is? It's like when you dress up as a character, they have Comic-Con and people dress up as like Star Trek people or somebody from like a Game of Thrones or something like that. But it's role playing. You're playing a character.
So the problem is a lot of people they're caught up in this story of the news cycle. They're actually playing a mythological role. They think that they're going to enter into the game they're living in their headspace of all the news coverage, and they're going to go in and play some kind of special role as an agent to bring stability back into the universe by taking out the evil Hitler. And so this is the danger of ubiquitous mass propaganda in a generation of variable levels of intelligence and discernment. So you start to really stir up this young kid who is the shooter up there in Butler, was an educated kid, but like so many leftists on a college campus, Lulu in the brain. I mean, they're pro-Hamas, pro-Gaza, kill the Jews. Trump's an evil guy. They're not critical thinkers. Their brains, in a sense, have been messed with.
Well, and also they've been indoctrinated with the idea that, essentially human life doesn't matter. That, I mean, if the fetus life doesn't matter, and turning people from an actual person that's made in the image of God and has a unique calling and has a destiny and has value, sheerly because they're here and they're breathing, that they don't have a worldview like that. And more we're losing people with a worldview like that. And so it just becomes winning at any cost. And you're not really valuable. You're a thing. You're an it. And even, yeah, I mean, even just the language that's out there a lot of times within culture, it pulls away at the value of human life.
So what you need to know about this situation is we got another knucklehead crazy guy. So the guys, and you hear all the bleeding out of information. So we're trying to get it all cleared out. Ryan Wesley Ruth, Routh, 58 years old. You've seen his picture. Charged with possession of firearms as a felon. He already has a record, evidently, that he has been charged with possession of a firearm while a convicted felon. And this man that is under investigation now for the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump wrote a book with his fiancée about how the Ukraine must win the unwinnable war against Russia, in which he discussed Donald Trump being assassinated in the book. The book was published last year. So the nut job had a book on assassinating Trump a year ago. And Ruth he wrote of Trump in the book as in support of the assassination of the GOP nominee, saying, I must take part of the blame for the retarded child that we elected for our next president that ended up being brainless, but I am man enough to say that I misjudged and made a terrible mistake, and I ran to Iran. I apologize, he wrote. You are free to assassinate Trump as well as me, he continued, for that error in judgment and the dismantling of the deal. No one here in the United States seems to have the blankety blank to put natural selection to work, or even unnatural selection. So this is the ranting of a deranged brain. And this is what you get. You got a whole lot of people like that with driver's licenses. And sorry to say, they might have firearms. But he gets within 300 to 500 yards of the president at a golf course. Now, the story that I'm told, and this could be subject to correction later, but is that he actually hung out at the golf course for something like 10 hours waiting for Trump to get around to the fifth hole. Now, how he knew that he was going to be playing golf that day at that golf course, I don't know. That'll come out. But it's possible that comes from the Department of Homeland Security somehow having his schedule and getting access to it. What is interesting to note here, Mercedes, is that Ron DeSantis has decided that the FBI is incompetent to judge itself. And so he wants to know, how did the shooter get within 300 to 500 yards of the former president?
Yeah.
Evidently, if you were a sitting president, you would have a surveillance of the 300 yard perimeter to 500. In other words, a block around you would have Secret Service protection, but not if you're a former president running for president. That seems to me to be a stupid rule, but it's just kind of come out of the woodwork. And it's like, oh, but technically, we don't pay for it. Government doesn't pay. Got $1 trillion we just paid, by the way, an interest payment for the last 6 months of government overspending. $1 trillion, larger than our entire payment for the Department of Defense. Bigger than our defense budget is the payment on the debt on the American economy. But they don't have enough money for a Secret Service detail to protect Trump after the first assassination attempt. I think the American people are going to find that a problem. So the other thing I want to say is that Josh Hawley has just dropped a report on the security failures. especially timely since we have a second assassination attempt. He's covering the Butler situation. And evidently, your theory is right, Mercedes. It was a diversity, equity, and inclusion priority placement for who was in charge of the Butler rally.
Oh,
It
was that
wasn't the
mine? Did I say that?
Yes, you said it sounds to every time something goes off the hinges here,
Mm,
we're wondering how was the selection criteria? Was it the most competent person put
hmm.
in charge, or was it the person that checked off all the boxes?
Yeah.
So what happened in Butler was a person who was notably incompetent,
Mm.
I mean, on record incompetent, was put in charge of the
Security
security
detail.
arrangements for Butler, Pennsylvania,
Mm.
and that incompetence led to the placement of items like flags around the Butler stage and catwalk, which totally impaired visibility for
Mm.
the men that are supposed to be sighting for line of sight shooters.
Yeah.
It added that the lead agent responsible for the entire Butler visit, including the rally, failed a key examination during their federal law enforcement training to become a Secret Service agent.
Wow.
They failed the test, but they got promoted anyway. In addition to security problems at the rally site, the hospital Trump was taken to was also poorly secured. The hospital site where Trump received treatment after the shooting could not answer basic questions about any site security. They hadn't really thought that through.
Mm.
Well, the point is that we have a second failed attempt, but let's also be grateful. It's not always be complaining. I'm thankful to God, and I think you should be too. You that are praying for this man's protection, realize that now it's becoming, like I said, it's becoming almost ho-hum. Are you surprised that they're shooting at him? It's just like they've created open season on the man. And it's your intercession that is working because one agent, moved by God, walked down the line of sight along a chain link fence and had the ability to see one metal object sticking out parallel to the ground that didn't fit the landscape. Not a stick, not a pipe, but he believed it was a rifle barrel. And so he moves swiftly in that direction, sees there's backpacks that are on the wall. Now, why are there backpacks there? And why was there a GoPro there? Because the guy was evidently wanting to film and memorialize his cosplay contribution to the universe. The backpacks they couldn't figure out were filled with tiles. Why? Well, the tiles, I believe, were used to absorb fire. So if it was shot back at, the backpacks would intercept the bullets. So he has backpacks on the fence with tiles in them, GoPro camera ready to record. He's ready to shoot and make his contribution to history in his crazy, Gotham City Batman, crazy brain. What's the name? Arkham. I always think of Arkham when I think of these leftists. They belong in Arkham insane asylum. And so here he is. But this one agent who had the foresight to go check the perimeter of the fence, sees the rifle, draws his holster, moves up fast, sees a human being ready to shoot, fires evidently, 1, 2, 3, 4. The guy, boom, bamboozles into his truck, takes off, and has this strange smirking serenity like a demonized crazy guy when he gets arrested because his role in trying to kill Trump is ticking all the significance boxes, all the I'm important, all the I'm doing something right boxes. I'm a martyr for a worthy cause. I'll be popular with people. So you can see what we're up against, folks. And this is what I mean when I say witchcraft, which the Newsweek is fighting me on all the time because I use the term to call out what is happening to the American mind is not normal. Any thoughts, Mercedes, as we sign off?
Yeah, I think I would even go one step further to say it's really miraculous that after the Secret Service agent took the shots at the shooter, that he jumped in his Nissan and was driving away, and there was a bystander that took a photo of the license plate, and that's why they were able to respond so fast. Now, I literally used to live right in this area, and so by the time they found the guy, he was crossing over from Palm Beach County into Martin County, which would take you probably 15 minutes if he's going real fast, maybe a little faster. But they were able to find him because there was a bystander who took a photo, and they put a bolo out and they found him. And then I think they flew him down to back where, Trump's course is. And the eyewitness identified the guy and said, yeah, that's the guy. And so you've got a lot of, like, when we talk about giving thanks, Lance, you have a lot of things that came together correctly in order to catch this guy, when maybe it would have been a longer manhunt. Maybe we would have known who it really was for a while. But thankfully, God lined it up.
And this
We're
is
not
it,
only
folks.
like
So while
preserved,
while there's going to be a lot of dumping on the Secret Service, go ahead, let the pressure be on them to ratchet up their game. That's okay. But let's be thankful to God, those of you that have wisdom, to see that God gave an agent the eyes to see there was an angel watching out and pointed that out. And then God had that innocent bystander sitting there, boom, happened to catch and took their camera out and got a picture of that license plate, had the presence of mind to record it so that they could triangulate and capture. In every sense, your prayers are working, and America is at that tipping point. May God intervene and save America from hell's assassination. In Jesus' name. Well, it's all the time we have today. I cannot hardly believe the day is getting away from me so fast. Well, tomorrow we have one of my most favorite broadcasts I've ever done. It's going to be with the Hebrew and Greek scholar Rick Renner, who's got a monster book, literally on monsters and fallen angels and wild stuff from the Bible that most people miss. We're going to talk about his best-selling book. He'll be with us tomorrow on this broadcast. You don't want to miss a moment of this scholars class on the reality, scientifically verified, of the existence of the ark has been found. You're not going to miss this tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss it. I'll see you again later. Bye-bye. Hey, I'm Lance Wallnau, and I'm coming to Pennsylvania. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I love Pennsylvania. It's the swing state of swing states. We're going to be having the Courage Tour. Go to thecouragetour.com to make sure you get your seat reserved for free September 27th and 28th. Lou Engle, Jonathan Shuttlesworth, Gene Bailey, Rick Green. It's going to be amazing, and you don't want to miss it. Thecouragetour.com, September 27th and 28th. Get your free ticket right now.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.